Today is the Global Day of Open Data, Apps for Eindhoven Challenge, and we have a very special guest. It's my honor to introduce Mr. Jonathan Reichental. And Jonathan is currently the Chief Information Officer for the city of Palo Alto. He's a multiple award-winning technology leader whose 20-year career has spanned both the private and public sectors. He was recognized as one of the 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers in government in America. And we are very proud to have him here. His innovative work in government is being recognized worldwide. He is a popular writer and public speaker on a wide range of technology and business-related topics, and today he's joining us at the Apps for Eindhoven Challenge. Hi Jonathan, welcome once again, and thank you for your time, and we are looking forward to the interview.
Well, good. I'm so glad I could be part of your event and part of this global event.
Thank you. I would like to ask you a few questions about civic participation, because for Eindhoven this is an important subject. And could you give us your thoughts on this issue?
Okay, so today is sort of represents everything this is about, right? Open government and a day like the Open Data Day is about bringing communities from around the world together with their governments, their public agencies, to tackle the big problems. And so in the past, perhaps all the responsibility just lied with the government, with the local city or the municipality. And what we've realized over the last few years is as cities become more complex and the problems become more complex, these things can't be done alone. It can't be just the responsibility of one organization to deliver the needs of a community. In reality, what we're faced with today is that we're all in this together. All the stakeholders, community leaders, government, software engineers, innovators, volunteers. In fact, what I enjoy so much about this emerging movement and civic participation is it's all inclusive. There is nobody who can't make a valuable contribution to their community. So this is very meaningful. We're just at the beginning. It's just terrific to see the energy, the enthusiasm, and actually even more rewarding to see the results. Because if you keep sort of a close eye on what's happening in cities across the planet today, and in fact prior and going forward, you're seeing real applications, real solutions being developed.
Yeah. Thank you very much, because I think today we have showed that everyone is here, the municipalities and the developers, and it's going well, I think. Could you tell us something about private-public partnerships? How do you see PPS for fostering innovation?
So the idea that we have to recognize that we're all in this together. And whilst we might call it public-private partnership, that sounds like a sort of technical term for just saying, look, we've all got to get involved. We've all got to get our hands dirty. We've got to be creative. And we got to join hands with all sorts of entities, startups, established businesses, non-governmental organizations, universities. You know, many minds coming together, we're going to get great results, and that's the hope. I mean, the shift is happening. The shift is happening from a world in which, again, as a citizen of a community, our expectation was, you know, you'd put $1 into a vending machine, and the government would spit out some service or product. Well, you know, that's come to an end. It simply is unsustainable, and we are forced into partnerships. But fortunately, these partnerships are very positive, because it's a who loses. It's really a win-win. And so in my role as the Chief Information Officer for the City of Palo Alto, I look to a whole variety of partners. We have a very open door policy, and we're saying, if you want to work with us, if you have an interesting idea, you have an interesting skill or a platform, some way in which we can begin to work with you and think about solving problems, we're going to be open to that. And I think agencies across the world need to adopt that posture. If they haven't already, they will have to, because unfortunately, necessity is going to make it happen.
But I guess it also depends on the culture of the government to be open and flexible. Could you reflect a bit more on that subject? Can you help?
I think you ask a very important question, a really important question. And I can just talk about America. You know, we're as a country, you know, we have a reasonably open system, and we have a history of being innovative and open to change. This is a domain, the government domain is slower on the innovation curve. And so, so even though enlightened cities like San Francisco and New York City and Los Angeles and the city of Palo Alto, even though we're doing interesting things, the vast majority of cities in America are not on board yet with embracing all the characteristics that go with building an open government and embracing these public-private partnerships. And there's lots of reasons for that. You know, the system of incentives today in government don't encourage risk-taking, for example. And I think that has to evolve, because by doing government work and delivering community-based services differently, we're going to have to take bigger risks and think differently. So the way I would look at this question is, I think we're on the right path. I just think that we're right at the beginning. Of course, there's always going to be cities like yours and cities in America and the UK and around the world that are going to be the first movers. And we're going to try things. We're going to get some things wrong. Hopefully we get more things right. And we'll create models for how to do this. So it really is a very positive thing. But I'm not surprised, and we should recognize that we have a long way to go to transform a more traditional culture that is very conservative to significant change.
And do you think trust has something to do with it? Reinvent trust and also reinvent democracy in a digital age?
I think I like the second part of that question. I think the reinvention of democracy is a key part of that, because we, as communities, we have an established view of the role of government. You know, in many ways, we think of government as a service provider just like any other, and we pay the government through our taxes. Well, sadly, that model is broken, and we have to reinvent it. And by reinvention, I mean we have to rethink our view of it and rethink our relationship with it. So it's going to be culture. It's going to be cultural change. It's going to be a change to the way in which we've historically, as people, community members, worked, and then we have to change as government leaders how we work together. Now, the first part of your question was a question of trust, and I think trust is foundational to a lot of what we're doing here. The good news is, there really is a very good story here, is that by, for example, publishing and making available the vast majority of data sets within a government agency, and making it, eliminating all barriers, right, does begin to build this new world of trust. The world in which we've emerged from is one where community has traditionally believed that government has more information than they're giving away, or they have they're not being completely transparent about the information they have access to. And when you begin to make that available, you slowly, very slowly begin to build trust with your community. And that's exactly what we've seen in the city of Palo Alto. I'll give you just one quick example. And that example is, in America, we have a number of laws that require governments to make available information. And whilst they do that, often it's a tug of war between the requester and the agency. In particular, there's a tug of war often between the media, who want to use this information, and the agency. In Palo Alto, every year, several newspapers ask for the salaries of all public employees. And we're required to make that available. As uncomfortable as that makes people feel in the private sector, it's just part of the culture of the public sector. There's not a lot that's private about me in the work that I do. And historically, that's been a little bit of a tension. So the media wants to publish all our salaries, and the government agency has to find that information, bring it together in a format that's usable, has to vet it, and then make it available. And that's been, at the end of the day, we do it. Government agencies do it. In the last couple of years, Palo Alto has just published this information live. And there's no more interference between the request and the availability of the data. In fact, there's no people in between. There's no middle people. And this is really game-changing. It sends a very different message. It says, look, this data belongs to you. We've nothing to hide. We want you to have it. We want you to use it. We want you to hold us accountable. And I think that has resulted in the beginning of increasing this journey to trust.
But I think you have made major steps to become a smart city. And I think the future belongs to smart cities. And can you give us some guidelines to become a smart city at Eindhoven? And we are.
Yeah. So you have to think about sort of what's happening in the world. I mean, we are seeing great shifts happening right now. We're seeing very significant demographic shifts. Let's think about, for example, where do people live? So in the last couple of years, we've made the shift from being a planet of people who live in a rural setting to a planet of people who live in cities. So over 50% of humans on this planet live in a city context. So out of a population of a little over 7 billion, well over 3.5 billion humans now live in a sort of an urban or city environment. And it's rapidly increasing. Humans are moving en masse into a city environment, and over the next 20 or 30 years, a few more billion will move into cities. Now, if you look at big cities like London or Paris or New York City, these cities today, and I should include, of course, cities like Beijing and Tokyo and cities in India, and many of these rapidly growing countries. And you look at the stress that's been placed on the infrastructure. Look at the transportation systems. It's tough. It's real hard today. So imagine what it'll be like in 5 years and 10 years unless we start to begin to think about how cities run in a different way. And that different way is working and operating smarter. It's having intelligence built into cities. Intelligence in the way, and if we kind of stay on the topic of transportation, intelligence in the way that we provide an optimized model for public transport. But think about things like the distribution of energy. Right? We have to think about, okay, we only have a finite amount of energy, but it's very inefficient today. It's very inefficient how we distribute energy and how it's consumed. And we have to think about systems and data that can contribute to making how we address things like energy, transportation, healthcare, all different aspects of city life in a smarter way. So I say the city belongs, I say the future belongs to smart cities because it has to. It's a case of ultimately these big complicated cities, as you onboard millions more people, they'll implode, they'll collapse, they will be dysfunctional. And it means people like the entrepreneurs that are there today with you, it means people in Palo Alto and all around the world need to think about the complex problems of cities. And it's going to be, by the way, behavior. But the biggest piece, and the piece that I'm excited about, because it's my world, the world in which I operate, it's going to be technology, and the use of all the emergent technology we see, and really good quality data. So there's no doubt, if we're going to have a prosperous humanity living in prosperous cities, we're going to have to think differently about all services and do it in a very smart way.
Well, I think you are right, and I want to thank you for answering our questions.